Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Alan Branch from Glove Up. Welcome back to the channel. I'm here with my man, David Dice. David, what's going on, my man?
Man, I'm so glad we got found here to do this. Everything's going good, bud.
So, guys, what we've been wanting to do is get together on video. A lot of you guys have David's videos really been popular. He talked about your power source and how to keep your punches nice and tight. We've got a variety of different topics that we've covered on the channel, but today we're going to try to go straight through and just have a great conversation about training overall, striking, talk a little bit about David's background, learn a little bit maybe about Joe Louis, and discuss some things that comes to fighting. So, David, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, this sounds cool. I mean, it's funny. I was teaching a beginner class tonight, maybe beginner, intermediate, and all the stuff that we've been talking about, position, right? People learning to, turn and shift their weight. It's all the stuff that the viewers have been commenting.
So maybe it'd be good for us to just go ahead and give them let's get everybody in a good foundation right from the beginning. So why don't you walk us through the position and through the basic punches, and we'll kind of review that power source video where we talk about, of course, not bringing your punch back before it goes out or out before it comes across.
Sounds good. So I'll just go over and kind of make it whatever you like. So I think the best tool in the beginning is a piece of tape on the ground and a mirror, right? Because, people always want to hit the heavy bag, but that can give you a false sense of balance and power. So, I take that front foot, first of all, shoulders width apart, right? So I tell people I want to be on train tracks, not on a tightrope. So with those feet about shoulders width apart, I simply tell them to turn the front foot in, rock the rear foot straight back. So your front foot's there, pointing directly at your target. Of course, that opens you up and you can't move forward without hitting the heel first, right? And then on the toe, the back foot like an athletic position. Take off, run, elbows in, right hand right off your jaw, rear hand, elbow covering your liver. The elbow in, front hand extended out a little bit, so you have a distinct front hand and a distinct back hand versus this right here, right? So that's our basic fighting position. A lot of people now question, a lot of people, they point that toe, the front toe straight at the target. So here's the four things that just very problematic with that. One, when you point that toe, it squares my shoulders. So now, in solar plexus, lever, float within the triangle of death, basically, that you don't want pointing at your guts. Now point at you. Two, if I want to move forward, my heel has to strike first. So if you're coaching a guy, if I was, and I saw him go with heel and toe, I tell my fighter to send his heel get pop it, because his toe has to get next, right? So pointing it straight causes you to go heel to toe when you move forward. The third factor is when it's pointed straight, when you throw that right hand, if you were to miss, there's nothing to catch you there and there's no stored energy. When you turn that front foot in, it can shift your weight and you miss. You have a lot of stored energy here to throw you back on balance, right? And the fourth thing, if we all agree that the heel has to turn so that your hip turns, no friction, and the hip turn allows the shoulders to turn. If your foot is pointed straight, your heel has way too far to go. Or if you break it in a little bit, it's here, right? So those are four good reasons why the front foot should never point at your opponent. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's a solid position and gets everybody started. So let me ask you this, on the pivot, when the heel pivots, you can't really rotate your hip or transfer your weight without the pivot of the foot. So
right.
Would you agree that it's very difficult to get that power without a correct transfer of weight?
Yeah, as we talk about kind of God's law, but it's really physics, right? Other people know it as. So physics says when you reduce friction between two moving parts, you increase speed. So I can turn my hip, right, without turning my heel, but as you can see, my leg is bound up. So that heel allows the hip to come through without any friction. And that hip coming through allows the shoulder to come through, no friction. So I can still get my shoulder through without turning my hip, but I'm bound up, right? So it's a kinetic shape. heel, hip, shoulders, and then a slight weight shift to that rear heel. That's where every shot of that jab should be coming from, as we talk about all the time.
Now, the next point that you covered behind the position is, and I really like it, it's a very popular video on the channel. People say it's some of the best punch instruction they've ever seen. And it's basically your version of explaining and keeping everything connected to your power source and not letting your punches draw back before they go extend or go out before they go across or go down before they go up. Would you like to cover that again for everybody?
Yeah, so I think we tried to, not make it a 2-foot punch, a 6-foot punch. So most people, the jab is here. If we agree, from my fist to my target is 2 feet, okay? If I draw back 2 feet, I move 2 feet. Now I got to recover those 2 feet, so my fist has moved 4 feet. Then I get from those 2, so my fist moves 6 feet versus, right? And then, all other punches have to stay connected to their power source. So many people go down before they go up, before they go in. When we were taught by Joe, your weapon always goes to the target, right? You never draw back.
Now, I'm sure you see some of the comments on the channel, and some of the guys will make a comment like, yeah, that sounds good, but, when things go down, people just start throwing. And I think what they're missing is that without a framework to build your foundation of your technique on, everything just goes to crap. Like, you're not going to have any form at all. So you've got to have a blueprint, a way to teach and break stuff down to maximize leverage, mechanics, etc. So I think what may come into play here is that certain individuals who are training may mistake favorable attributes like their speed or their power and think they don't need proper technique. But everything is built off of a strong foundation, the right position, the right ability to punch. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so we've talked about this. What makes a great athlete great versus a good athlete is his application of the basics. It's not the 360 dunk. It's how well the guy dribbles, who has shoes, right? All the basics. And sure, you see people fight, you may see it drop a little bit or draw back a little bit. But if you're practicing perfect, right, and then you lose maybe 10 or 15% of it in the heat of battle, you're still 85 to 90% perfect. If you don't practice perfect, and let's say you practice and you've already lost some, then the heat of battle, you're going to lose some. Now your stuff is crap, right? So certainly we know we're going to see some people draw back, but people that think you have to do that for power, they just don't understand. That's not where power comes from. Watch a baseball play. You see a baseball player before the ball gets stands draw back. Watch a golfer, right? Anybody that's working torque and weight shift. You don't go backwards to go forward.
And I'm sure Joe Louis probably told you this term as well, but when I was training with Joe, what he would say is we're going to practice perfect in that position, because when the battle comes, when fighting gets chaotic, when you start to get tired, you might get popped, things are going to settle. And the word was settling. Like, you'll have your hands up, they'll settle. You'll practice doing it perfectly tight, and it may settle, but you had a proper foundation to build your skills off of to start with.
Yeah, so your settling is everybody else is good, right? That's the main thing. Practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect. And I tell athletes this all the time. You are focused when you're practicing and making sure whatever you're doing is exactly the way you want to compete. Your body doesn't think for itself. It only does what it's done in high repetition. So all these goofy drills that I laugh at all the time, where people are making it up online and it looks kind of boxing-ish, right? It's actually negative motor. And I'll expand on that in a little bit if you'd like, the 3 different kinds of motor learning. This isn't my opinion. This is fact. Where negative motor learning is when you're doing something similar to the way you want to perform, but not exactly right. Ruins technique. Technique is very specific. Conditioning is very general, right? So, you don't want to do a drill that's kind of like boxing, but you'd be doing something that you could never compete with, right? Where you see people crossing their feet, doing all these drills with their hands at the fighting stance. You'd be better off having your hands up like there if you're just trying to work quick feet. So positive motor learning is practicing exactly the way you want to compete. Negative is similar to, but not exactly. And different is, if I was a baseball player and we were fighting, we both went to chop wood. There's rotation, there's weight shift, but it's not confusing to your body because it's not the technique you're looking for. Does that make sense? That's called indifferent motor learning.
No, it does for sure. And what you said about the footwork drills may be one of the best examples. So the way that we teach that, and you've got a little bit better angle for this than I do, but the way that we teach that is in 4-inch steps. So we call it a 4-inch rule. If you're going to go forward, your front foot's going to choke up 4 inches and your back foot's going to draw up 4 inches.
Exact same size step. Yeah.
Correct. And it's not a literal 4 inches, but it's basically saying it doesn't need to be big and it is going to be the same so that the stance stays the same. So if you would demonstrate that forward, back, and left to right in that pattern.
Sure. So since whatever size step the initial step is, the second step has to be the exact same size. If it's not, for example, if I move it forward and I go 6 inches here and 2 inches here, I'm not finishing my perfect fighting step. Does that make sense? So this is 3, this has to be 3. You know, if this is 6, this has to be 6. The initial step and the second step have to be the exact same size. So it doesn't matter if I'm southpaw or if I'm traditional left side forward. If I'm moving forward, my front foot moves first, rear foot comes up, back foot, left foot, right foot. If you do it opposite, you're either crossing your feet or your feet are getting within shoulders width. And any athlete knows when your feet get close together, you have no leverage, no balance, no mobility.
Well, that's going to make a bulk of the boxing drills that you see online literally silly, because they are complete contradictory to what proper footwork foundation is.
And you see people doing this,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is they look at somebody like Roy Jones or Mayweather, who has put in their own personal flair because of seasoning, experience, physical attributes. I mean, they're just next level type fighters, and they get away with some of the showboating, but they, rest assured, in the beginning learn the proper way to do this, and then they develop a looser style as they progress through their experience. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and that's not, we both know, you know, those are elite athletes, incredibly coordinated people, but that's not what got them where they were, right? They added that later when they were so dominant, they could really get away with anything. But it's funny, so this checkbook, which is kind of a new term, it's actually check. That's what that, because the Europeans would do that. So a lot of people don't know that. They call it a checkbook, right? But if you watch Roy Jones and those guys do it, they'll still shift their weight across and then spin. Everybody else is spinning now while they punch. And it's just butt backwards because you're spinning out your power. If you're throwing a hook, you want your weight coming across, not going backwards. Right? But if you watch Roy Jones do that, you know, gazelle look where he jumps in, his weight still shifts this way when he does it. So if you really analyze it, those guys are doing it different than what people online think they're doing.
So let's talk a little bit about, let's talk defense. So when you're going over positioning, we are typically, if you want to break your defense down in order, I would say that the first thing you would learn is footwork. So for defense, because you want to be able to control space and distance. And then the next thing you would learn would be some sort of basic blocking with your hands. And then next would be some sort of slipping. And then eventually you would work on some sort of circling in that order. What's your take on that for defense?
You're exactly right. So we know, I tease people all the time. I say, look, you know, there's a distance at which I'll fight anybody on the planet. Yeah, maybe 50 yards away. But if you can learn to control that distance, right, in good footwork, you can fight above your weight level big time. So movement, kick. The second thing is learning how to deal with a good jab, because we both agree, and Joe taught us, I don't care what kind of combat it is, stand, stiff jab straight down the pipe is by far, in my opinion, and I know yours too, the best weapon that there is, right? So learning how to catch that jab, you can parry it and pop it, and you can slip. And when it comes to the body, it's human nature to draw down, and you need to catch that bad boy with your elbow. We talk about it all the time. Your hands don't ever belong down you, right? I mean, it's so many, it's human nature to reach down, and that's how people set you up, right? So definitely footwork, blocks, stands, and elbows, right? Then slipping, head movement, and then combination. So many people don't spend enough time on defense. And you watch people shadow, get in the bags, and they're not creating a fight. You don't see any blocking going on. Well, that tells you right there, that's an inexperienced fight, because you're going to miss 2/3 of the time. A great fighter lands on your thirds. There's a lot of missing going on. And you've got to be able to deal with your blocks, right? Be able to balance when you miss. And it's killer to see somebody that really knows how to fight, work it back and shadow, because it looks like they're fighting somebody, you know.
Well, and it's one thing to talk like we discussed this prior to starting that we're going to start the only podcast YouTube channel where we stand up the whole time, because how can you talk about fighting or martial arts and sit down? Like we can't sit down. So, couple different things. One on Lewis with movement. One thing that he would always say is don't attack somebody when their position is strong. So when somebody's in their best possible position, you don't just waltz in and start throwing punches. That's when you would use footwork to sort of draw them.
Your angles, angle of attack,
weaken the position. And where are they weaker? They're weaker in transition from one position to the other. So if I can get somebody turning a little bit and squeeze the trigger while they're in the middle of the turn, then I've got a much better chance of getting off a good attack. And that basic rule was don't attack when position is strong.
Yeah, so powerful guys have to be set before they can deliver that hard shot. So you just don't let them get set in a multitude of ways that we'll cover. We learned from Joe. He was so far ahead of his time. And he's the guy that taught me how to work the 3 different kinds of speed: takeoff, reaction time, and miles per hour. I mean, for anybody.
Well, I want to cover that too, but we're like hitting so much material.
We've got so much stuff to go over.
So when you were discussing a minute ago, we were on the defense and learning to deal with the jab and catching punches. And so one thing I wanted to bring up and get your take on, I sort of feel like there's 2 ways you can learn there's 3. There's 3 ways you can learn to fight. One is fight. Well, you're going to get tough, and it's not like guys that are tough and are just spar a lot. They can fight because they're just seasoned at the environment and the stress conditioning, although they won't have the skills to back it up. So you can fight, or you can learn through drills. So you can do drills to develop the skills. And then if you're going to be a competitive athlete, you should merge those. And the third option would be to develop skills through drills and then apply that through some sort of sparring. And I really don't see any other option. At one point, we had some fighters coming down to work with one of my professionals. We were bringing him down out of New York, and we would do drills with our guys, and they would just watch. Like, they'd never seen a drill. They came from a very popular boxing gym in New York, and they're like, what are drills? I'm like, that's how we teach these skills. And their response, we just fight. We just get in the ring and spar. I'm like, that's fine if you want to eat out of a straw.
That's the school of hard knocks kind of, but that's a really hard way to learn.
I mean,
I don't think I've ever seen anybody become great like that, right? They did sparring partner syndrome, right? So let's act like it's a different sport. We're going to go learn how to play basketball. The analogy would be like this. The guy's got to learn how to dribble, crossover dribble with both hands, right? He's got to learn how to pass, chest pass, bounce pass, right? He's got to learn how to jump shot, shoot a free throw, lay up with each hand. Well, if they don't know how to do those things, and you just say, okay, play, right? Eventually, they may get pretty good, but they're going to miss out on a lot, right? But the faster, more effective, and the safest way is to teach them the mechanics really clean, then teach them situations called drills, right? And then the application, scrimmage, right? But to skip all of that and go right into the ring or fight, man, that's, I would want that guy to balance my checkbook because he's not going to be the sharpest tool in the shed for long, right?
For sure. So if we let me back up and redo your analogy for kickboxing. So let's say that first thing we would do is teach our stance, and then let's say you learn, you get a good position, and you learn how to throw a jab. So first I'll learn to throw the jab, and then I may shadow box that jab. I may put it on a heavy bag. I might hit a focus mitt. Then I may get a partner, and then I'll throw that jab at a partner under control, and they learn to check that or slip it, and then they're on back to me, and then I check it and slip it. And we basically took a skill, we learned the skill, then we apply the skill through some sort of drill format, and then we progressively elevate that. So the next phase would be, hey, we learned a jab, we learned to block the jab, we practice that. Now let's get a mouthpiece in and let's do a really light little spar where we both work on attacking and defending the jab. And that would be what we call a progressive sparring situation that could continue to elevate as skill level dictated.
I really don't know any other way to do it. If somebody had a gun to my head and said, okay, we're going to you have to get this guy good as fast as you can, right? It would never be contact. It would be positioning, movement, and rotation and weight shift, then firing after those things, teaching the defense, head movement. Then we do some drilling, that are similar to the fighting situation. Then we put into some sparring. I'd have like one guy have everything, and the new guy, all he gets to do is work his jab, right? So he can think about one thing. He's not thinking about this huge fight. He's just trying to make that work, right? And then, you teach him right hand, round kick, whatever we're doing, and have them be able to apply those, and then it's, you just keep adding them on. Wear safety equipment. I see these people sparring without headgear, which is just ridiculous. All that does is tense people up. It's not natural to be okay with getting hit in the face. So the only way to learn to relax a little bit is have the headgear on and work it. These guys that fight without headgear, it's so tense. And, it's just, I would have no idea how to make somebody good any other way.
Well, you see a lot now of a lot of gyms that'll put out videos of sparring that is completely lopsided, where one guy gets like absolutely crushed. And I guess that's for the sake of views or for entertainment. And then, my background, I came up in the Tough Man contest before it was regulated. So there was a lot of crazy things that went on in there. But one of the first things that I realized after I started training with Joe Louis was I could take a basic drill. Like I had one particular fight where Louis was just working on developing the jab, and I had 3 knockdowns in the first round off of nothing but my jab because they were so wild when they made a move to come in. It was just jab. 3 times down, they call the fight's over. I'm like, what happened? We didn't even get the fight. Like, 3 knockdowns. I'm like, I didn't throw any punches. All I threw was a jab. That's all it took, and that was developed when we would, for example, after one of those fights, I would call Joe and I would tell him win, lose, what I had trouble with, etc. And he'd say, okay, here's your problem. Let me see the tape. Send him tape. Oh, you had your back on the ropes. You got to keep your back to the center of the ring. Here's a drill for that. You didn't establish your jab. Here's a drill for that. You didn't turn the big guys when you were in the clinch. Here's a drill for that. So I guess I just kind of learned that no matter what the scenario, there is a drill to correct and develop the right skill.
And when you're drilling, you're much more relaxed because the worst that a fighter could do in the ring is act like it's a street fight, get white knuckled and clench your teeth and get all stiff. That's human nature, right? In order to break that, that's what drills and point of view sparring is what I like to call it, where a full drill, there's coaches watching us. Have one fighter, all he gets is a jab, and the other guy gets everything. And watch what happens. 99 times out of 100, the jabber has a better round, okay? Because he's singular focused, right? He's calm. He's looking for that opening. And then I'll say, okay, jabber, you get to throw 2 right hands this round. Still focusing on that jab. And both of those right hands will land clean. because they'll see the opening. So we do more point of view sparring where, and that's when you can take a really good guy and a guy who just started sparring, they can both benefit because you're working, point of view. And I need you guys to do the same things.
Yeah, and very interesting what you just said. We would do striker versus grappler, and if we let just say two guys of an average boxer, an average grappling skill, and the boxer would generally get taken down by the grappler because he's so nervous. But when we took all of his tools away and said you can only jab, and then all of his focus went from not thinking about any other punches, but just continuously pumping. It became extremely difficult to take that guy down.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, relax all of your punches like that. Just relax. It's like when I know when I can relax and train that one tool, you become very proficient.
Yeah. Yes. And it looks so funny. It's all the tools should be like that. It's great to have a guy say, okay, you get everything and all you get is a front kick, right? Then he'll learn to have proper distance. He can't let somebody get really close to him. Then when he can add in other stuff, he's landing that front kicking lot. So that point of view sparring, and it's so much safer. People relax, it's focused, it's not this, competitive nature. And really, if you look at guys like Mike Tyson, elite level fighters, they're not fighting full steam except for, 2-3 weeks before the fight. Their timing is right. They're going after it. But most of their sparring, they're working on something. Turn it out, whatever it is, slip and spin it. Their coach is kind of working point of views because when you're working a corner, we're only beneficial if the guy we're talking to can implement the tools that we're going to tell him to. Hey, listen, this guy's jabbing. He's dropping his rear hand, so I want you to poke off his jab. Well, if we haven't worked that in drills, hell, I can't. It's worthless, right?
Right, and as chaotic as fighting is, we're going to get about one or two things to the guy in a 1-minute rest period. That's going to be about all he can retain or take back out on the ring because of just the overall stress. So if we haven't trained it or drilled it, it's absolutely... but you've been in corners too. And we talked about this recently. We were in a corner and we were winning, and all the other corner could yell at their fighter was throw more punches. There was no plan.
Put your hands up.
So I talked to a fighter. He came to our gym after he lost to my fighter, and he came to our gym and he said, man, he goes, what's this coaching style you have? I'm like, oh, we do these drills and we explain it, teach it this way. He said, man, he goes, every time I fight, when I'm in trouble, my coach yells, man, throw more punches. And he shook his head. He goes, shit, man, I'm a boxer. I know I'm supposed to throw punches. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. It was the fighter who all of a sudden he woke up and said, man, that's a different style of training over there. But that's developed in the drills.
So that goes back to us talking about develop all the tools in the toolbox. Then the situations that you get in. And a good corner guy is studying this. He's looking for this guy's crossing his feet when he's moving this way. So when he steps that way, throw this. He's dropping his hand in the middle of that. So hook off up, right? So they have to know how to do that. And then when they come back to the corner, if any other coaches listen that are maybe new coaches, let the guy catch his breath. Teach him how to set their breathing. 2 breaths out, do that twice. The first 30 minutes should be being calm, wipe his face off, and then very specific instruction the last 30 seconds. Not a bunch of people screaming and hollering, just real calm. And if you don't have that kind of relationship with your fighters, then they really don't belong in there with you, in my opinion.
Right. So you were going to talk a little bit about the 3 different speeds. You want to talk that?
So, and it's great to know how to teach a fighter how to use these. So you have reaction time speed. Okay, that's what happens when you see, hear, feel. You use your senses. You see it or you feel something, and the amount of time it takes for that to register for you to take off is your reaction time speed, right? So, and it can be done by touch, sight, or sound. Then you have takeoff speed. And that is, okay, that signal has been sent. How fast can you actually explode? And I'll give you some examples of other sports. Then you have miles per hour speed. How fast did that overall technique start and stop? overall miles per hour. So a great way to talk about this is a sprinter, okay? Usain Bolt, he was never out of blocks first. So his reaction time speed wasn't as good, or his explosive or takeoff speed wasn't as good. But his mile per hour speed was dominant, right? He'd catch him and blow by him, and then they could time the fastest part of it, and his overall miles per hour faster, right? Fighters should practice all three. And a great way for reaction time is flash and pads, right? Don't stand there like that. It drives me crazy when people mix like that, right? Nobody's head is that big, so you flash it, right? So you can flash it, or you put numbers, stickers on a bag and numbers, change it up. And you call out a number, they got to hit that number as fast as they can, right? Then explosion, you just stand there and work on exploding. You'll see Floyd Mayweather doing that with his jack to get in front of him and just work explode. But he's doing it when he wants to. So there's no reaction time. He's working takeoff and explosion, right? So it's important to know how to work all three types of those speeds because sports requires it, and I tell you, when somebody's faster than you, it is a long night in any sport.
For sure. So what do you think? So Joe Lewis and I, you've probably seen this drill, but Joe created this 3-point sparring drill that we actually demoed in multiple seminars that I was in. And that drill, and I've never really thought of it until you just explained this, but that drill really addresses all those aspects. And what that drill is phase one, there's 3 levels. You a very static, like just standing in place. And what I do is step in with a jab and then immediately step out. And when you see the jab coming, you react, you check it, and then you respond with a jab, and then I respond. So it's 3 jabs. So it's my turn. I go 1, you come at me, jab. 2, back at you, and then we switch. The next version of it is fluid. So you start a little light rhythm. I jab and come out. As soon as I jab, you respond. I respond. So it's 1, 2, 3. It's offense. It's a quick reaction. It's a quick, I read the squeeze. I have to check it, take a step back in with mine. Then the dynamic version is we're in rhythm and motion, and you're
right.
3. And then the next phase, which is so much fun, here's a drill. I go 1, step in, you come in, I parry, I counter 1, 2. So all it is jab, jab, cross. But when you make it a drill like that, it really trains your release time, your reaction speed. You learn to read the punch. You learn to follow through because you have to step in because the other guy's going back. And
Joe was genius too. I mean, it's just, I tell people all the time, I've worked with a lot of people. I spent a lot of vacations just traveling and staying with or staying near great trainers and just picking their brain. All in all, I've never been around anybody that had as much knowledge and forward thought as Joe. And it shows when he's teaching, and people just don't realize, man, he's a pioneer. I mean, it's just that they should look at every video that you post of him because never will they see information that's not applicable and not solid. And I just urge everybody to watching something like this, please know who you're learning from because there is so much junk on social media, right? But there's also some good stuff. You just have to do your homework, But I tell you, if there's coaches listening, so you want to have somebody just work by themselves, taking off as fast as they can. So they're working their explosion, but there's no reaction to it, right? In a fight, you have to have reaction. You don't know when that opening is there, right? You don't get to determine that. So you've got to be able to see it, feel it, and then react. So you have to have drills for that. And the good thing for you to do is make a noise and let them fire on it, call out a number, and then don't get into a rhythm. Fighting is a broken rhythm. So you would go like, if you had 1, 2, 3, and 4 on there, you could pick whatever shot they wanted. You'd go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 2. And you break that rhythm up because if you get in any kind of rhythm, you've taken away the reaction time. And when people do drills, you'll see that back and forth, back and forth. you've now ruined your reaction time. So I urge trainers to make sure when their guys are doing drills, to always do it in a broken rhythm.
What do you think about what we said? I said this in a video earlier, that what separates all of the things equal, attributes, the knowledge of how to punch, skill, seasoning, etc. What separates the best fighters from the rest are the ability to throw combinations, to link their moves together.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's a lost art, right? So I've been, lately watch a lot of fighting, and you and I would watch two dogs fight, right? I just like combat, and so what you see is a lot of one punch, two punch, and that's not how great fighters fight. When Mike Tyson was at his prime, and I use him as an example only because his stuff was picture perfect. He fought in combinations. His thing was how fast he could put stuff together with power, change his angle, do it again, change his angle. When he became a headhunter, that's when he got beat up a lot, right? That's not what made him who he was. And if you look at guys like Sugar Ray, we were talking about that the other day, that guy can throw 3 or 4 punches, and not only fast and crisp, but they're like shin, solar plexus, liver, jumps, they're accurate. Jeff Smith, kickboxing, man, that guy would throw 3, 4, but everything was in a vital area that would hurt you. When you can be that accurate with combinations, you don't need to be super strong, right? We're not trying to punch people in the shoulder or hit them in the throat, or the neck, or the chin, or the nose, or the solar plexus, liver, from rip, right? But I mean, you have probably the best combination sequence that I've seen. The way you teach that, and hopefully everybody will tune in and start putting all that stuff together. It's superior to anything that I've seen. Not that I've seen it all, but I've seen a lot, right?
Well, Lewis said that accuracy was the holy grail of all fighting. So if you're accurate enough, if you can hit the target, you're going to win. And then one of the last things, I don't know if I told you this, but one of the last things he ever asked me to do was, I've actually got him on tape saying it. He said, look, I need you to create drills. Like I need material. He goes, I'm traveling the world. I'm teaching all this. I can't continue to come up with it. I need you to do it. So we came up with a sequence that Lewis adapted, and he actually put that in his manual. And that's why I got the role of a supporting drill creator.
Don't give it all away tonight. Don't give it all away on this thing. No, but if anybody's listening, I promise you, and I literally been all over the world just since I was 19 years old. I'm 62. Studying what does this coach have? Why is this guy so great now? Just, my wife didn't like it, but I would go vacation there and just sit there and just watch. We were talking about it the other day. I was fortunate it's only 2 hours away. But he was so specific. They'd have a coach looking at heel speed. That's all that guy was looking at, right? Because we talk about that heel allows the hip allows the shoulder to shift weight. So they would have one guy just looking at heel speed. That's how specific he was on that. It's pretty cool. But all that said, your combination sequence that can work with one of my guys the other day. And within minutes, man, he was doing pretty complex combos. Just because of how you segment them and put them together. We need to do a meeting on that, or a podcast, what they call it.
Well, the concept is that people are used to, if you're calling numbers, which is traditionally what coaches do, and obviously,
1, 2, 3, yeah.
Right. So, and it's fine for calling the punches, it's fine, but it doesn't incorporate everything else, like position, slipping, stepping, turning, parrying a jab, catching a right hand. All of those things have to be called in a drill individually. So what our sequence did when Lewis asked me about putting this together, it was after he passed away that I developed the next level, which is what we do now, called flow. And the idea was, how could we put fighting drills into modules where instead of having to go, okay, 1, 2, 3, like for example, we have a simple combo called jab in, and jab in is a double jab and a cross. Well, you could say 1, 1, 2. You could say that, but this is our very rudimentary combo. So we'll say jab in. Well, then what? All right. Well, let's say I want to practice, a little snap back to dodge a punch, and we call that rock. And if I rock back, I load my weight to my rear leg. So I'm going to teach myself to fire off of that leg because that's where the punch is. And Lewis always said, if somebody hits you once, you got to hit him back 3 times. So every combination, I didn't tell you this, every combination, whatever the movement is, finish 3 times. So if, say, jab in, rock, you jab in, rock, and throw 3 versus having to go 1, 1, 2, rock back.
And 2, 2, 3, 2. No, it's genius. It's genius. It really is.
I think now we're at 100 different combinations, and these things teach all the things that you and I are talking about, and like little things that I've incorporated into the beginning of flow. One of the number one things is what you taught me. I'd never heard it like that, the 4 points of contact. So once you learn, and if you like, once you learn the 4 points of contact, now every drill that you do in flow, you're going to reinforce the basics of how you learned it by making sure you follow the 4 points of contact rule.
Yeah, and I tell you, that's a great point to bring up. A lot of fighters don't understand that it's not natural. So proprioceptors are what fire when you go off balance through space, right? Well, what's natural is, like if you slip up on ice, you go up, your hands go down like it's full, right? So that's what happens when you turn and weight shift. That other hand wants to come down. So then people call it punching and covering. When you're throwing that jab, that's on your face. That's 1, 2, right? 3, 4. So the perfect punch would be that hook punch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Uppercut. 1, 2, 3. Goes check. 4. So that 4 points of contact are critical. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is that hand will go down, that hand will go down, and it's hard to break a natural habit. The only way to do it is a perfect repetition, right? So then when you go hit a heavy back, if somebody's not focused on it, then all of a sudden that hand starts sliding down, your body's getting that it's okay to do that, right? So, it's just perfect practice makes perfect. One more point I want to make on the combination. This is what I used to always teach our kids and in the new fight. I said, listen, if you had a bucket of rounds and there was a target right there, and I said, you got to hit that target. There's no other move. If you took one round and threw it, your odds never change, right? You take a handful of those bad boys, machine gun those things, one of them is going to land. That's that combination theory, right? You take it a step farther. The combinations that you're teaching are ones that create openings. Bang, 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 bang. Change the angles, the levels, right? And so, because people aren't making that stuff up at full speed, combination fighters have been practicing it in combination because they know you're going to move people around. And, like Joe said, I mean, that's what elite fighters do. They don't throw one round. They're going to throw, it's the shot that hurts, the one they don't see coming, right? Anybody can deal with one hard shot. It's a bang. One of those are going to catch them without being seen, right?
Right. And, one thing that I learned on defense in the Tough Man contest was, I started out early. I'd only been boxing for maybe a year or 2, and I didn't have any other way to test what I was doing. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a coach. I was teaching myself. And so I see this Tough Man contest. Hey, if I win this thing, I get $1,000. Man, $1,000 to me then was like,
like robbing a bank.
I'm like, where's my gloves? I'm going to sign up. So one thing that I learned in that was a lot of street fighters would enter, right? And the very first thing they would do is literally throw as hard as they could their first punch, but it was only one. So it's like, if I could defend one, if I could step out of the way of one, if I could angle out of the way of one, what's next? Well, one more. And then that's when it was like, well, maybe I should throw 2 because none of these guys can throw more than 1. And that was, that was a very inexperienced version of me, but seeing one punch at a time versus and man, it's a night and day. The concept is so overwhelming that superior firepower wins the day.
Without telegraphing, if you throw those shots straight, how many times have you seen that third sneaky jab? That do so much damage to people that are trying to wind up. It just tears them. throws their stuff off. They keep, I mean, every time I do this, I get hit in the face. If we could just stress to these young fighters, man, straight to the target. You don't draw back and trust the pattern. You have to trust it. If you have a nice straight jab that pops the elbow speed, right, like taking a log and popping somebody in the face with it, it has plenty of power. But I'll see it in MMA a lot. They don't trust that jab, right? That would stop people in their tracks. And when you do it half-heartedly, a right hand can go through. And it does every single time, you know.
Well, you'll see a lot. I think my view is that a lot of the MMA fighters, they don't release their punches. They're throwing them. So you'll always see what you talk about. There's like just a little pulling it back. It's not a smooth release. And it's like they're trying to throw it hard versus letting it release and do the damage that the technique.
So we talk about firing punches. You don't throw a punch. You have two guns. So if we call the jab like a snake's tongue, right? You have this gun and this gun. Fire the gun, and then the bullet comes out. If you and I picked up a bullet, the biggest caliber you could, and threw it at somebody, it wouldn't do anything, right? It doesn't do anything. It's telling us, fire it into that gun. So I challenge people to do this. Take this away. Watch elite level pro boxers. Okay. Now, you and I both love MMA. They have to know so much stuff. I mean, they're incredible athletes, right? In great condition, topless nails, have to learn so much stuff. But they still want to be good strikers because we're called all the time to work. And this is what I teach these guys. Listen, elite level fighters, then you go lower level MMA, and amateur boxers, right? It's going down the line. What you'll see is when it starts going down the line, you see a lot of rib cage. Now, I want everybody to notice this. Watch a Marvin Hack. You never, right? Those guys, you don't see their rib cage a lot. They torque, they fire, they said, once you disconnect from your power source, you can't pick up any more power. And it becomes an arm punch, right? An arm punch is a weak shot. And so if you think about that, if you're throwing that jab, we talk about snatching that elbow back, you don't want to see a lot of rib cage. When you're hooking, just for a split second, right? But what you'll see is that. It's like, kind of octopus fighting, right? And so just guys that are listening to this, concentrate on learning how to torque and weight shift. And like Bruce Lee said, your punch is going to be like water. That's it. Like you see Joe shaking his fingers. The aggressive part is that, right? The punch should just snap out of it like a bullet firing out of a gun. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking, hey, look, this is awesome. And we're going to be doing a lot more of these, guys, a lot of these discussions where we can just sort of go over different things. And we will do some of these broadcasts where we actually take specific skills and literally lay those out for you and show you how you can drill them to get better and whatever stand-up game you're playing, whether it's MMA, boxing, kickboxing, or any form of martial arts. Dave, before we wrap up this first one, what would be the final thing you want to leave with everybody?
The point that I gave these guys, this MMA young tonight, is go to glove up training. I'm just saying this only because everything on the channel is applicable in real, okay? And you've got to remember, a gun, if it's a power generator, our speed, because force is mass times acceleration, right? Timing, when to let a shot go, rotational power, and weight shift. When you have all four of those things in a shot, again, not talking jab, everything other than jab, even elbows, you have to have those four power generators: rotational force, weight shift, speed, and then timing, technique, knowing to release it at the last second. Watch a baseball player this. You don't see their elbows. They lag it. Watch a golfer, watch a throw. That's because they want to stay connected to that power source. We can get everybody doing that, and we'll break it down. Watching that channel, because all the stuff is going to be on the channel. And again, our goal, we talk about it all the time, is when we leave this, I just want to be able to leave great material for people that are really serious about it, can get good. Because it breaks my heart, man, to see people that are very hungry stumble across stuff because you don't know what you don't know, right? and wasting so much time watching and listening to stuff that's just, hogwash.
Well, one thought would be for anybody watching this, if you never threw an actual punch in a street fight or any type of competition, and you trained boxing, kickboxing, and developed the physical attributes that come as a result of the training, which would be balance, good proprioception, how your body is in space, good reflexes, good hand-eye coordination, hand-to-foot coordination, your ability to move, to react. You'd burn off stress. You're in great condition. You generally meet some pretty awesome people when you start training again. Think of all the many, many, many benefits, whether you got engaged in a fight or not, just to know and to be able to do these things. Just overall, I challenge anyone to show me a better form of other, of course we need to strength train, but other
athletic training, Oh my gosh, and I trained some pro tennis players, and nothing moves faster than your hands. And one guy was like, "Man, after doing this for a year, the tennis ball looked like a trash can." So these were the best players. So yeah, I mean, look, everybody doesn't have to get into the ring and bang around and have a great time and learn a skill that really is applicable if you ever have to use it, right? And again, we're just interested in sharing good, solid information. We came up to the School of Hard Knocks, and I tell everybody, you don't need to take the bloody noses we've taken. We've done all this and learned all this, that we can share it, and you can, go past us, right?
Absolutely. Well, man, I appreciate it tonight. This is great. Guys, we'll be seeing you next time. We end all of our workouts, all of our shows with the same thing. Remember this, keep your hands up, keep your chin down.
Chin down.
Thank God every day that you have the strength to do one more round. See you next time.
God bless.